Can we have finally peace between Ukraine and the Russian Federation? Well, maybe if I asked you this question some weeks ago, you could have said yes, finally. It looks like the Russian Federation and the United States are having some legitimate peace talks, and even Vladimir Putin is attending a summit in Alaska with Donald Trump. And I mean, it looks like diplomacy is finally working. And multilateralism might not work as well, but bilateral decisions such as United States and the Russian Federation might work. And even better news, if I told you that afterwards, many other states are dealing with the United States in trying to have this potential solution. Even Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky is having a good relationship with Donald Trump. Well, this sounded pretty well to me, really. But unfortunately, as we've seen in the recent United Nations General Assembly, and as we've seen in the Security Council, this looks very bleak in the short run. And not only that, we also have seen an intensification of the conflict since the last 3 years, in the last weeks and days. And winter is approaching, which is still much more unfortunately, especially for the people of Ukraine, as the energy sovereignty of the country is facing a quite potentially catastrophic winter in Ukraine. So, is peace still possible? Well, there are some reasons of optimism and some other reasons that unfortunately we see the future very bleak in the short run. Let's start with the bad news. Again, we've seen the speeches in the United General Assembly of the Russian Federation, but also the allies of the organization of that country, and the statements and the suffering and the intense killing and so on that is happening in Ukraine. It's not only intolerable, but it is also a trend that is increasing, and as of today, it's not stopping at all. And we don't only have to take a look at the last 3 years, but rather in 2014, in the invasion that happened in Crimea. And back then, that was unconceivable. That was really the first unfortunate mile that happened. When I say mile, I wanted to say milestone in this case, that happened since the Second World War, really. Nothing like that happened before. And that was unprecedented, having an invasion and obviously Ukraine not defending itself, and all of a sudden, oh well, this is my territory, like playing Catan or Risk. And back then I worked at the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and I had the chance to talk with people of the peninsula of Crimea, and they were completely devastated. I mean, imagine yourself in your region, your country, your city, and from one day to another, you're invaded, and all of a sudden, you're part of that dictatorship. With the international community not being able to play enough cards, as Donald Trump might say, in international relations leverage or diplomatic solutions to reversing that situation. And that happened 11 years ago. And considering what happened 11 years ago until the situation that we have today, unfortunately, this looks pretty bleak. And also because of a matter of ideas. The Russian Federation, or the leaders of the Russian Federation, still believe that Ukraine should be part of the Russian Federation. And with that idea in mind, theoretically they have no legitimacy to be a nation state. Therefore, being invaded shouldn't be a problem, because really, they're part of the same family, of the same nation. And that's very unfortunately to have that kind of mentality in the 21st century, but that's really the leadership of the Russian Federation today. But also we have another hope, which is twofold. The first one is that the international community, including the General Assembly, but also what happened some weeks ago with Donald Trump, many other leaders, Western leaders, but also leaders from the global community, clearly stated that they want a peace agreement, and that at the very least, and that was quite unprecedented, that Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump had a conversation in person, which still, even though we're not seeing the results, quite the opposite, still pretty good news. And we need to see that in perspective, as that might play a role in the coming weeks, months, and years. But the second reason, which is the most relevant one, and this can be applied in almost any conflict, is that, as we said, that it was bad news because of the ideas, it can be also very good news, because ideas in the end can be changed. These are intersubjective ideas, fictions, myths that one might believe, that can provoke disasters, genocides, horrific things that have happened throughout history, but still this can be changed. Because in the end, it's not a conflict that is driven by a lack of resources that are completely needed to survive as a species or as a collective, as a community, and whatever. No, the conflict is not about water, about rare earth material resources that are completely critical, and let's imagine that only that country has those materials. No, it's not about food, it's not about materials that are critical for the infrastructure of a country. It's not. If it was, well, then the diplomatic solution might be much, much harder. But since it's about ideas, these can be changed. Or even if the president of the organization, in this case of the country, at some point stops being the leader, then if a new leader emerges, that leader might have different ideas. And with different ideas, there could be potentially different solutions, hopefully good ones. So you can also grasp optimism from that perspective. As again, ideas and diplomatic solutions still exist and can still be applied today in the case of the conflict of the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And hopefully the conflict can be solved very, very soon. And with that, I hope you liked the video today. Consider subscribing to the channel if you like content like this. And as always, embrace your curiosity, enjoy life, and be the change you want to see in the world. See you in the next optimistic adventure.